Prabhat Jayasurya's 5-wicket haul that led to Sri Lanka to get its win by 10 wickets. So Laksisi to start off with Sri Lanka versus Afghanistan, the only test match that happened. We saw Prabhat Jayasurya's 5-wicket haul that led to Sri Lanka to get its win by 10 wickets, and not to forget Asita Fernando's contribution to it too. What do you have to say about it?
Yes, Kadhija, this is the first ever test match that Sri Lanka played against Afghanistan, and this is also the first assignment for Dhananjaya De Silva, Sri Lanka's 18th test captain. So, and this is also the first test match for Sri Lanka in this year for 2024. So, this is actually a busy year when it comes to test cricket for Sri Lanka as well. We have an important away tour in England. We have to play 3 test matches, so it's going to be a huge challenge. This match was all about getting the preparation right, trying out the various components that they can use in England. So, as a result of that, Sri Lanka actually gave a debut out to Chamika Gunasekara, the young paceman. Chamika Gunasekara, he's someone who actually impressed quite a lot when it comes to the domestic arena. He made his ODI debut, I think it was at the beginning of 2022 in an ODI against Zimbabwe, but unfortunately could just bowl 1 over and had to be taken off the field due to an injury. And then it was a long road to recovery for him, and he made a grand return just few months ago when the Bangladesh emerging team toured to Sri Lanka. I think he took an 8-wicket haul or 9-wicket haul in innings in that series. So that's why Chamika Gunasekara was picked for this series. He couldn't impress much, unfortunately, and he had to go out in this game as well due to a hit on the head, due to the concussion he suffered. So Kasun Rajula replaced him. And going back to the match, as I mentioned, this was an important game for Sri Lanka to start things out well in the year leading up to that England Test series. And Sri Lanka won the toss, and interestingly, they decided to bowl first. I think they went with 3 pace bowlers. I mean, usually in Sri Lanka, most of the time we go with 2 pacers and 2 spinners, or just 1 solitary spinner and 1 solitary pace and 3 spinners. So in here, Sri Lanka just try to do things differently, mainly to make sure that they don't feel the threat of the Afghanistani spinners, because just like in Sri Lanka, they have some very good spinners, Afghanistan. So because of that, I think Sri Lanka went with a more cautious approach when it comes to the surface and all. But in the end, it was actually Prabhat Jayasurya who turned things around. Sri Lanka, after deciding to bowl first, Asita Fernando, I believe, made a really good start. He removed Ibrahim Sadran in the very first over, and then Rahmat Shah played a good knock, but Afghanistan, they just never got going, could not get to the 300 run mark, which would have been ideal. And then Sri Lanka, the 2 experienced campaigners, Angelo Matthews and Dinesh Chandimal, scored centuries. Angelo Matthews, unfortunately, I think he had another double century on the cards, because the SSC service is very easy to bat on, especially during the 2nd and the 3rd days. So he missed out, and it was another, I would say, a drastic dismissal because I mean, just few months ago at the World Cup we saw him getting timed out, and here he suffered a hit wicket dismissal. So he got out for 144 if I'm not wrong, and Dimut Karnaratne also missed out on a century. So it's really great to see the 3 experienced campaigners coming into the party, especially to make sure that, to give the confidence to Dhananjaya De Silva that he has the support of all the seniors in the side during his reign as captain. So and then while they were trailing by over 200 runs, Afghanistan, they made a strong start to their 2nd innings. Ibrahim Sadran scored a century, but they just lost their way in the middle thanks to Prabhat Jayasurya's spell. They were 236 for 2, I believe, and then in the space of 25 to 30 runs, they lost 5 to 6 wickets, and just things just completely fell apart for them. And Sri Lanka just had to score over 50 to win, and they just got over the line quite easily. So it was a good start for Sri Lanka when it comes to Test cricket to the year, but it was not a testing match to be honest, Kadhija. So I think Sri Lanka will definitely get a much more bigger challenge when they tour Bangladesh later this month. They will play 2 test matches, which belongs to the World Test Championship cycle. So that will definitely be the next challenge coming up. But the even bigger challenge lies ahead even after that, the England tour. So let's see how Sri Lanka plans things out and figure out their combination, because Sri Lanka, they'll have to stop relying on the spinners too much. I think they actually they laid the foundation to that. Sri Lanka, they'll have to use their paces more. I think Asta Fernando and Visha Fernando bowled really well as well. So Asta and Visha, both of them, they have the experience of playing county cricket in England. So because of that, those two will definitely play a huge part. And who that third pacer will be is Sri Lanka. Kasum Rajde is the more experienced one, but Sri Lanka went with Chami Gunasekara, as I mentioned. So we'll have to see who that third pacer is. But I think in Bangladesh, Sri Lanka will probably have to go back to that two spinners option. So it will be interesting to see how Sri Lanka prepares for that England tour while trying to get the maximum points out of the Bangladesh tour, because Sri Lanka, they lost both their games against Pakistan, so they are right at the bottom in the World Test Championship points table. So Sri Lanka, they have a lot of catching up to do. So let's see how things work out.
Yes, Laksisi, as you said, indeed, it was a great start for the Sri Lankan Test team, and we look forward to many more matches from their end.